Hello, this is Matthew Lim with Foundations of Leadership. This is the first leadership reflection video. So, what were my biggest takeaways from the video? So, I think my biggest takeaways were especially the perspective and empathy parts of the video when Simon was describing that leaders should always have an understanding of that kind of empathy and perspective when they're leaders, because if we don't practice empathy, we aren't going to understand different perspectives or emotional levels that employees could have, because everyone's different. So we always need to have some sort of understanding of those kinds of things, especially when it comes to different people. If we're in charge of different people, because companies can be very diverse nowadays. And also the fact that leadership is a skill that isn't basically born into your skill sets. It's more a skill set that's learned in practice. So it's like a muscle that you have to work out constantly to actually be more effective. So you need to be on top of it, and you need to be basically just working on yourself more and more, improving upon yourself more and more. And then the second question: how did Simon Sinek's message about empathy and perspective challenge or affirm your own understanding of leadership? So his message about empathy and perspective did affirm my understanding of leadership, because I believe that leaders should always be the guides or the mediators of big groups. So they should be the ones who are always understanding of certain problems, certain issues employees are going through, because not everyone is the same. They always have different issues. So I feel like leaders should always be the ones that have kind of empathy and perspective skills when it comes to their employees. And number 3, what point did the video resonate with you personally, and why? I think that the part that the video resonated with me the most is when he was describing the great leader part and telling the story about the barista from the Four Seasons. I actually really liked that part of the video, because giving us a real world example of how an employee sees different types of leaderships and seeing their perspective. They were describing the other hotel and how the manager was more focused on numbers and statistics and sales, so they were more focused on that, and they couldn't really be themselves, and they were always the ones. And when he was describing his managers in the Four Seasons, who was describing more of a more people-focused manager, who was more focused on how they were feeling, if there was anything they could improve upon, and he could describe himself as he was able to be more of himself in that position rather than the other hotel. And then, do you agree with Sinek's criticism of modern leadership practices, such as using layoffs to balance the books? Yes, I do agree with Sinek's criticism, because leadership should always be built on trust. And if we're using layoffs as an excuse to balance books, that's a terrible way to break trust between you and your employees, current and ones who are laid off. So people are always going to just see their manager as the big bad guy who's going to tell me I'm going to get laid off tomorrow, and there's just going to be zero trust. And that's not really a good way to practice leadership, in my opinion. And we should always have some sort of mutual trust between employee and leader. And number 5, in what ways can you apply one or more of those leadership principles in your current or future roles? So I would say that if I become a leader in the future, I would always try to apply more perspective and empathy skills to my leadership, trying to be understanding of someone's situation or current emotions, and trying to be more empathetic towards them. And of course, building trust, with the layoffs, try to be more loyal and trustworthy to my employees. So yeah, I would try to be a great leader in that perspectives. Thank you.